known around the world. That's right, known around the world. A number one bestseller. Number one bestseller for longer than any other book ever in the history of all time. A man who has been passed on for thousands of years. His legacy, his stories, what he's brought to the table for thousands of years. The most famous person in the world, in the history of the world, is a guy named Jesus. Now, this guy named Jesus, some of you know him, and some of you don't. But my guess is all of you have heard of him. I don't think we can deny that Jesus is the most famous person in the world. No matter what your religious beliefs or backgrounds or faiths or what your spirit tells you, this week we're going to study the most famous person in the world, a guy named Jesus. We're going to study him, and we're going to study things like what Jesus would do during a pandemic. And we're going to study things like how Jesus was able to shift and pivot during his time on this planet and make an impact in people's lives. We're going to study the most famous person in the world. The series this week is called I Can Make You Famous. Studying the most famous person in history, a guy named Jesus. Now, a lot of you have this flannel graph picture of Jesus, right? You've got this flannel graph picture of Jesus where he's sitting on a rock. He's sitting out there in the woods or somewhere. He's got all the little kids, and everybody's all gathered around, and he's sharing stories, and he's talking about, he's carrying a little sheep around and so on and so forth, right? That's the picture that a lot of people have of Jesus. But I'm here to tell you that if you really study the story of Jesus, if you really dive into his history, if you really look at the things that he did and the way he impacted our planet, in reality, he was fierce. He was a warrior, and he was a rule breaker. Let me share this story with you. So there was a time, back in time, there was these people called the Pharisees, and the Pharisees were the religious leaders. They were the church leaders. They were the Hippocratic. Is that even the right way? They were hypocrites. Let's just say that. I'm not sure Hippocratic's the right way to put that. But they were hypocrites in the sense that they preached one thing, but they didn't live it. They talked as though they were all thou and high and mighty, but ultimately, the way they carried their own hearts and their own spirits, Jesus went far enough to say that none of them would ever enter the kingdom of heaven. Now, some of you might even feel this way about today's church. You might feel like today's church is filled with a bunch of hypocrites. And in some senses, it is. In some senses, there are people that do not live out. They put on a front or they put on a show. But ultimately, what it comes down to is all people are still human, and they all still make mistakes. Luckily, this guy named Jesus did some amazing things for us because he understood that. So the Pharisees were these leaders of the church, these supposed people that were the most faithful and so on and so forth. And Jesus walks into Jerusalem, right? He walks into Jerusalem and he sees these religious leaders are sitting out in front of the church and they're selling all kinds of stuff. Right? They're selling t-shirts. It's like I went to Jerusalem and all I got was this, or my parents went to Jerusalem, so all I got is this t-shirt, right? They're selling all kinds of goods and stuff right there, like in the temple, and they're telling people who can come in and who can come out. They're doing all these things. So Jesus shows up. Dude, he shows up. He says he found them in the temple, those selling cattle and sheep and doves and the money brokers in their seats. So after making a whip of ropes, he drove all of those with the sheep and the cattle out of the temple, and he poured out the coins of the money changers, and he overturned their tables. You hear me? And he overturned their tables. You see, Jesus wasn't this little flannel graph dude. Jesus was a dude on a mission. He was passionate about his people. He cared nothing more in the people, and he wanted them to be able to connect with the Father. He wanted them to be able to connect with God. He wanted to be able to bridge this gap. And so when he saw the leaders of the church abusing their power, he went in and he flipped the tables. You kidding me? Picture that. Picture this man flipping the table. Picture all these leaders looking at him like he's crazy. He's pouring out their money on their table. He's like, look, people, this ain't right. This ain't right. The real Jesus fought for what he believed in. And even as he faced death, he stayed true to his purpose. You see, everywhere Jesus went back then, he faced death. Everywhere he went, there was a chance that he could get sick as he hung with the sick and the weak. There was a chance that he could get robbed. There was a chance that he could get murdered. There were people out after him constantly, his entire ministry. But yet he faced those fears. He went in because he was a man who was walking in purpose and was going to do whatever it took to fulfill that. Now, you see, this word purpose, it gets thrown around a lot. I know sometimes some people are like, I don't know my purpose. I don't understand my purpose. What is the purpose? So on and so forth, right? This word purpose, it gets thrown around all the time. And see, purpose is that thing that you were designed for. There is no one who lacks purpose. See, most people just don't accept theirs. They have this preconceived notion, or maybe a parent planted something in their head, or they learned something in school, or whatever. They have these behaviors to where they feel like they're supposed to be a certain thing. But ultimately, your purpose is that thing that you were designed for. Were you designed to sing? You're supposed to be singing. Were you designed to walk into a room and light it up? You're supposed to walk into rooms and light it up. Do you have the gift and the ability to encourage or to inspire? Then that's what you're supposed to be doing. But a lot of us don't walk in purpose. Instead, a lot of us walk in fear. We walk afraid. And right now, there's more fear going on in the world than ever before. And so as this week, as we study this fierce fighting Jesus, I want you to understand that ultimately I want to help you find your purpose. Recognize the purpose that is in you so that you too can walk without fear. You see, there's a lot of people out there that are hoarding, that are gathering, that are so on and so forth. And I thought, well, what would Jesus do? What would the most famous person in the world do in a time like this? And I think that this kind of breaks it down right here. I think this is what Jesus would do. It says, for Christians, it is better that we should die serving our neighbor than surrounded in a pile of masks we never got a chance to use. Let that sit. Those that walk within their purpose, they walk without fear. Jesus traveled to areas where people wanted him dead. And not only did he travel to areas where people wanted him dead, but if you look at his story, if you listen, Jesus walked 3,125 miles during his ministry. 3,125 miles. Over a lifetime, a conservative estimate of the number of miles he walked was likely around 21,525 miles, almost the equivalent of walking around the entire world. Can you believe that? You see, those that walk in purpose will go wherever they have to go and do ultimately whatever it is that they have to do in order to serve that purpose. So this week, that's my hope for you. This week, let's learn from the most famous person in the world. Let's learn what he would do in a pandemic time. Let's learn how he was able to walk without fear as he faced death every single day. How he was able to walk into areas and touch and impact other human beings' lives. How he was able to have the strength to walk in and flip the tables. Flip them. Dude, this dude wasn't driving around in a car. He didn't have an Uber. He didn't have a plane. He didn't have any of those things, dude. He was on foot. He was on foot for 21,000 miles. Walking into people's churches, flipping tables. Going, come on. I want to walk like that. Do you want to walk like that? Do you want to have confidence like that? Do you want to be able to face these things and go, fear not? We got this. Shift, pivot. Shift, pivot. Continue to walk. Face the fears. That's what I want. That's what I want for you. That's what I want for me. That's what we're going to do this week. My friends, you, me, all y'all, children of God. The God of the universe, the God who made everything, made you to be the absolute best version of yourself that you could possibly be. And you're being tested right now. We're going through trials right now as a species. We're being tested. We're going through trials. And I'm telling you, the ones that are going to rise up, the ones that are going to get through, the ones that are going to thrive, not just survive, the ones that are going to grow, are the ones that are going to use this opportunity to step fully into their purpose without, I shouldn't say without fear, face the fear. And still continue to step fully into their purpose. That's who's going to shine. That's who's going to rise. You have an opportunity unlike any ever before. You can shift. You can pivot. I mean, you've got all the excuses you used to have of why you couldn't do you. All those excuses are now out the window. They're gone. It's a clean playing field. It's a clean slate for everybody. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Are you going to step into it? You're going to step into it? You're going to shy away from it? You're going to walk 21,000 miles if that's what it takes? You're going to go in and start flipping tables? Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Because you, as a child of God, uniquely made by the God of the universe, God who made everything, wants you to be the best version of yourself that you can possibly be. And so the decisions you make today, I want you to know they matter. Though seemingly small, they make an impact on your friends, on your family members, on your co-workers. You showing up here today made an impact on me. And I, for one, absolutely stinking love you for it. I do.